Welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show, where we help top leaders find their pathway to incredible success and a lifetime of happiness. Here is your host, Tom Dutta, the Quiet Warrior.
Oh, yeah. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show. I'm Tom Dutta, your host, and super excited today because we got a big story we're going to share with you. Hey, listen, we're live streaming. We're across LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and this live stream is being taped to be released as a future podcast. It'll also be a YouTube premiere video, and so you can catch the live right now with us. Give it a like, push the button, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, there's a chat box on many of the feeds. If you're there, you can chat and we'll interact with you. Everybody, before I bring on the guest who's in the green room, I want to just tell you a little bit about him. His name is George Kalantzis. George and I met actually before, and I'm sure he'll tell you a little bit about that. And man, he's got a story, and so his bio is just a shadow of the man. He spent a decade in the Marines, coaching thousands of hours on the gym floor. Went through divorce, single parenting, overcoming suicide attempt, and he understands the unique challenges we all face in the fast-paced society of the modern world. Wow, this guy wrote a book. Man, did he ever wrote a book? Nowhere to Go, Navigating Tough Transitions. He's a podcast host as well, and he's a coach, and I mentioned coach, but art of tough transitions, something that you have to have a lot of grit and understanding to do. And well, we're going to do something unusual today, but let me bring George on and let you meet him. Hey, George, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, what's up? Welcome. Definitely a little different going live, but let's do it, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, man, nothing like going live, brother. And well, look, we should explain the baseball cap. So that's George's look, and I came on and I said, "Hey, George, I got to get your permission because this is my look with a COVID haircut." But I put this on, man, and it's got you see a little bit of camouflage in there. I want to salute you, dude, and thank you for your service to your country. You're where are you coming at from? Where you live?
I'm in New Hampshire these days.
All right, these days sounds like a nomad.
Yeah.
I'm in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, as you know. So we're great partners, man. You know, the Great White North, and down the south we got you guys. So let's get into it. First of all, I want to do something different here. You know, you probably know me from talking to me before. I'm kind of the freak flag. So first of all, everybody, I want to just confirm that I read this George's book, and dude, when I read books and I get deep into them, this shit happens. These are seven pages of notes off of the Kindle platform, really 14 pages of things I highlighted that were meaningful. So I'm going to read while you listen. And of course, we do this because I want to share this because sometimes you've never had your book read to you, have you? And in fact, I remember when I was a kid going to sleep and I'd have a story read to me. It was cool. So don't go to sleep on me, though.
Hopefully not.
So I just like you to listen to your magnificent words, and then we'll get into the story.
Okay.
This is from George's book, Nowhere to Go. Hold it up there, George. Let's full screen you so we can see that book.
Yeah.
All right. Hold it up a little higher. There you go. What a beautiful book, Nowhere to Go. We're going to tell you how you can get that book and why it's significant. All right, here we go. I think this is from page 12. It's a bit. So I don't know what stopped me the night I almost took my own life. After more than a decade of running from demons, I wanted it to be over. From childhood trauma and severe depression to addiction and devastating divorce, I simply felt too broken, too exhausted to keep fighting. And then I did. It all started for me when I joined the Marine Corps in 2001. And I remember asking myself, what the fuck am I doing? What does it take to be the best? Can I push my body and mind past extreme discomfort when there's really nothing left to give? Who am I? I've always been fascinated by the human mind and body, but I grew up in New Hampshire as the firstborn son in a divorced Greek family, which made self-exploration and individualization nearly impossible. I was told to be a man, a phrase so powerful that it led me to a lifetime of feeling like I was never good enough. Instead, my years as a Marine consisted of death, addiction, and valuable life lessons that forced me to hang up my uniform after 10 years of honorable service. When I left, I wasn't headed to an exotic location surrounded by fellow Marines. I was on my way back home, a place I knew I'd never survive.
Mm.
Holy cow, man. I I mean, first of all, I wasn't looking at you because I was looking at my paper, but I can just imagine the flood of emotions and what people saw as they saw you. Dude, I know it's emotional and every day you still experience things, but take us back in life. Let's go back to the beginning. I mean, there's this little thing here about childhood. Tell us where this started.
Whew, yeah, I mean, it all starts with like that story, as if we basically subconsciously learn the world through our parents or those closest to us growing up, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, firstborn son in a Greek family meant I had to, take the blunt of the family because of that, but also because I had grown up in a divorced family at such a young age, which to me told me I wasn't enough because my dad told me to be a man. Whatever that meant, what does that even mean at a young age, meaning now at 38 years old, right? So that
Yeah.
created this entire deep rooted belief that no matter what I did, it was never good enough to be a man. And so that left me in a chasing state rather than like a attracting state or just living life as was.
Yeah.
That is a story that was subconsciously rooted, deeply rooted into my mind, into my body for many, many years. Right. And that's where
Yeah.
that started from.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, man. And I got to say, he said he's 38 years old, and I'm just looking at this, and the thing that I just read, and the stuff you've been through. I mean, I would have thought you'd say I'm 60 years old, because you've been through more in your young life than many people your age have, and you add on to that serving in the military and some of the things you might have seen there. One of the things you said, George, maybe when you take it back from me or give it back, talk about how you and I met, because on your show, I'm talking to you on your podcast, and we're starting to trade stories, and all of a sudden I'm going like this, like, man, your story is like my story. So this thing about the unconscious mind, I don't know if everybody really understands the power of that, right? But I remember even later in life becoming a person in business. The shit I went through in my childhood from a broken home manifested itself in many areas of self-doubt, sitting in a room in a boardroom or a meeting room in business and looking at the guy across the table from me and melting in an emotional puddle inside because you reminded me of my violent father. Crazy, crazy stuff. So let me put you back to you. So there you were, and there was a part in the book here. Again, I'm just gonna have a lot of creative time reading today. Just a small passage. I'm just gonna find it here. I wrote in the margin the word uh, the word mom. Just bear with me here for a minute. Uh, Yeah, there was something about seeing clothes being thrown out of a window, stuff like that, and that was the beginning of the change in your early life. Just tell us that. Tell us about that.
Yeah. I was in kindergarten, actually right around the same age as my daughter, which is very interesting.
Hmm.
And, I'm coming home. It's a fall day in New Hampshire. We are living in, a pretty nice neighborhood for the time being. And I just got Nintendo. Not too many kids on the block had Nintendo. It was like one of the special times,
I had one.
and it was rare. So I'm like, we're driving our bikes. I'm like, yeah, we're gonna go over play Nintendo. And next thing I know, like,
All right, hold. Sorry, I got to do this to you. What game? What was your favorite game in Nintendo, man?
I mean, I just had Mario and Duck Hunt, and that was cool at the time, right? Like I was
Yeah,
6 years old,
yeah,
and the
totally.
game slowly, steadily built after that. Zelda and all the things, came. But
Yeah,
at that point, I was just excited to have Duck Hunt and Mario, which not too many kids had at the time, and so we were all about it. And next thing I know, my dreams were shot down a little as a little boy that day when I saw clothes running out, getting thrown out the window, people yelling, and within a few days, people came and basically took everything away. We didn't have a house, and next thing I knew, my parents were getting divorced. So it was a tough time. Yeah.
yeah. I want to honor you. Thanks for sharing that. Everybody, we're talking to the author of. Well, he's more than an author, but he's written the book. Hold it up again, there, George. We're going to get it up there a few times
Yeah.
today.
Sure.
There it is. Beautiful cover. Nowhere to go, navigating tough transitions. And I mean, I just want to say this to all of those listeners who are or watchers out there, that how many of you are going like, that's my story. If you're happen to find this on your maybe your parents stream and you're in the morning and you're young, a kid, maybe that's what you're going through. That's the thing I love about how you wrote this book, George, is when I said, if there's something in your book that can help change somebody, shift their thinking to give them hope, it's a home run. Here's the paragraph. It's page 33. This is vivid. I remember riding my bike home from school when I was 6 and seeing Mom throwing clothes out the windows. As I pedaled closer, I could hear her screaming at Dad. I had no idea what was going on. The only thing I knew was that a few days after the fight, men in suits came to our house and took everything away. I had a flashback there to Men in Black for some reason. The movie, kind of crazy. Got to ask you, what kind of guns were they holding? I had no control of this situation. I felt broken inside. I felt like my parents had abandoned me. They were physically still around, but they were so caught up in their own issues. I want to say this to you, man, that when my home was sold at age 12, people came and took everything away too. But my dad went away. He left. And I feel your pain. And yet you were in kindergarten at an age where you probably couldn't even rationalize your thinking. So what happened after then? Take us from there.
I was thrown right into the split mix of things without my parents really ever explaining to us kids what was happening. They acted like as if it would nothing happened, which can be kind of cool, but not really, because we were tossed around from home to home, brought up by my grandmother, which is a yaya in Greek. And, and my mom was basically so distraught in her own life. She was unable to attend to the needs of me, my sister, my little brother at the times. And my dad was always working, providing for the family. I was too young. Now I know he was caught in a gambling spiral of his own addictions. And this was this thing again. I had to find out, like, what does it mean to be a man? Like, I have to protect my sister, my little brother, and be the firstborn son who was named after my grandfather. So again, that led me to feeling broken and lost and never enough in life. And when I was young, I found working in my family restaurants, started to cultivate this hard work and this discipline in life. And that's where I really started to, become a man, if you want to say. Like, I worked a lot. I did things that other kids didn't do. I wasn't good at sports, and I tried to fit in, and it never worked. So I was always, if I did try to fit in or I tried to express something that was on my mind, I got disciplined for it. I was caught in detention and internal suspension because I didn't know how to express my voice. So therefore, that left me with this, again, I'm not enough. My voice doesn't matter. My story doesn't matter. No one understands who the fuck George is. And that's what I felt like a whole entire life growing up, pretty much.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Just to get into the restaurant, what was your position or role in the restaurant? Waiting tables? Were you a cook?
Yeah, I mean, when I was little, you started the bus. You started as a dishwasher out back. No one knew who you were. Then as I got a little bit older, I could do the bus boy stuff. And then as I got into high schools, I worked for my uncle and his tanning salon. So it kind of like went all over the place.
Yeah. I got to honor you, man, because it's funny. I was reading my LinkedIn feed, and this fellow I know in the restaurant industry, he posted this thing, and it was this long LinkedIn post, started going viral. And there's this big issue because of the COVID times where restaurant workers, they can't find them, right? Yeah. And there's a real knock on the industry because you guys and me, I waited tables for a year recently because of a brain injury I'm trying to get through. Like, the skills a server or somebody in a restaurant has are incredible. I mean, there's no room for error. We put up with a lot of front or back of the house, right? The incredible, like a machine, everything is, and you call each other out with feedback so that, the experience for the customer. I just want to tell you quickly before I give it back to you that my wife and I celebrated an anniversary, and we went out for dinner on Saturday night here locally. And man, we were sitting in this corner in this little, we call it our neighborhood gem. It's a steakhouse called Little Billy's. And the door opens behind. You can feel the cold coming in the room. And it's an intimate restaurant. And this woman all of a sudden just goes off on the front clerk. And she's carrying a little baby. And she says things like, "Excuse me, I don't appreciate your attitude. Do you realize what it's like to lift a 50-pound kid?" And then she goes and she starts this tangent of just losing it and insulting this young waitress. And I just kind of turn around. There's a couple of things I've learned, George, and one of them, your book really hit home. It's like, don't judge people on the surface until you understand what's going on in those dark corners of their minds. I started thinking about, like, this lady's could be some mental illness going on. She's got a child. She's picking up dinner at 7:00 at night, and what's going on in her life. But the stuff that happens when we're under stress is incredible. Want to go back to the book again. I'm just going to read another paragraph here. page 82. A good friend asked me, why do you continue to believe those things about your life? So you just told us that little story you said you had about not being good enough. Why do you put yourself through this torture? Fuck that, man. I paused in silence. I knew he was right. So many of us live on the surface, guided by a set of beliefs designed to keep us lost. Sometimes those beliefs protect us, but most of what we believe is merely a cover up for the deep rooted fears we're afraid to face. Wow. So people are going to get the book and read it, but I want you to take us back into the story again now. So now you're on your own. You're feeling this abandonment from your family, and then I think there was a right turn that happened where you decided to engage in the military. Or fill us in if there's something I missed before that.
Yeah. So that left me, wondering out who George was, and that obviously, usually when you have no guidance or parents to kind of like tell you what to do or where to go in life,
Yeah.
I felt abandoned and lost, and so I found, troubled crowds to prove myself worthy as a man, and I got caught up in drugs and alcohol and all the things that are definitely not cool.
What kind of drugs?
I was selling MDMA and ecstasy when I was a young boy.
Young boy being how old?
Like in teenage years, yeah.
Yeah, crazy.
So
Did you ever get caught selling?
I fortunately never got caught. I don't know
Yeah.
how it happened. I know other people very close to me, which I won't expose who they are,
Yeah.
that got caught, and it scared the crap out of me. But I never did.
God bless you, man, that you didn't. Anyway, keep going because you talking
And
about
so
getting
that
in the military.
led me to never going to school. Was pretty much going to not going to graduate, and somehow found myself at a pull-up bar on one drunk night, stupid night, and on a carnival right before senior year. And I woke up the next morning with a card in my pocket, promised me a future with the 7 circle because I had 7 pull-ups at 17. And so I that attracted me, like the demeanor, the discipline, something of a better future. Like I had never thought about that. Everybody was going to college. I had no clue who I was going to do. So I went to the recruiter's office, and they're like, "Yeah, we'd love to have you, but you're not going to graduate high school, therefore you can't be a Marine." So again, my shots jammed. So another story of like, you're not good enough to do anything. So that killed me. I didn't let that get me though. I went into school and I said, this is my plan. I started working out. I didn't live too far from school, actually about a mile. So I ran to and from school every day, went to the gym, all that stuff. I sound like back in my day when I had to walk 10. No, but I really did. I lived about a mile away and I ran. It wasn't that far. So it was a mile away, mile back. Did that every day. Started getting in shape for the Marines. And there was nothing I could do, but I still wanted to get in shape to prove that I could do something. And I did that. Then 9/11 hit. And I'll never forget that day because I was in English class. I left high school that day, walked into the recruiter's office, said, I'm ready. Let's go. There's going to war. He's like, we'll work something out now. And next thing I know, we worked out a plan with my principals. I was in morning before class started, like morning detention doing homework, and stayed after school. Everybody was out doing homework to catch up on the grades in the classes. And then I became a Marine.
Wow. Yeah, September 11th. I'm sure there's a lot of things. Our minds are going in different directions now. It's funny because I still remember here in Canada the day that happened. I was sitting. We're no longer in the home I had because my kids are older now, but we were sitting in a home, and my mom was over early in the morning to look after my daughter before I went to work, and my wife was a career manager in a bank. And I just remember getting up and the TV was on. It was a 21-inch TV color, and the image of the first tower, kind of boiling with smoke, and my mom just looking at it. And then I remember sitting on the couch looking at it. I went to work, and I worked in our telecom company. I was a director at the time. Go up this escalator to the 6th floor, and there's like a big congregation area for employees. And this is like a 20-story building. We owned it, the telecom did. And there's one of these big screen TVs, and there's 100 people around that TV. And they literally, you could hear a pin drop, George. Nobody was talking. Wow. And I'll tell you if they get an opportunity later in the broadcast about my cabbie story in Indianapolis the day after 9/11. I was traveling. It was quite something to see the reaction the world had. But going back to that, I'm sometimes wonder, because you're an American and we honor your service, that I wonder what would happen if there there wasn't a recruitment officer, where your journey would have taken you. But here you are in the Marines. So tell us more. There's a lot in the book about this, and everybody, first of all, hold up the book one more time, George.
Sure.
Everybody, you got to get the book, and it's called Nowhere to Go by our friend George Kalantzis. the way authors get known, everyone, is if we read their books. But I want you to get George's book, whether it's digital or whatever, and go on Amazon and write a review. Write a review so we can get his work known, because there's a lot more coming in the show about what he's doing with that story. But George, my father was a commanding officer in the military, so my only claim to fame for service is going out when I was a kid and on some of these things they did in the bush, teaching. I held a rifle, kind of built a bridge, but only through Hollywood have I experienced what you've seen live. So tell us about that experience in the military.
It's interesting because I would have retired this year, which is total mind fuckery of some sorts, right? So
Wow.
I
Really?
I write about it. I wanted to retire as a Marine. Like I really did. I loved the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there was a clash again of a deep-rooted belief that I was never good enough. So I always had a problem with superiority, always, no matter what. I knew I was a good Marine and a good leader because other Marines would come to me for problems, but somehow I just always clashed with superiority. I thought others were out to get me because I never developed a good relationship with my father, which means that I didn't trust other men in my life. So that led to a whole host of problems. Anyways, 10 years flew by, lost my best friend early on in a combat war, immediately acted like that didn't happen, went overseas to serve for 3 years guarding embassies, got caught up in manic depression, alcohol, sex, and all the things that caused like a downfall of a status where my self-worth was attached to external things, relationships, sex, and all the things which really crushed me as a man. So when I came back, I got deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan. In between Iraq and Afghanistan, I got into trouble with alcohol. I got a DUI. And so I had to do a lot of work to pull myself out because I'd never got in trouble. And the Marine Corps said, hey, listen, you've never got in trouble. You did all these awesome things. You're decorative. You did a lot of cool things. You have a choice. You can stay in. You probably won't get promoted. We're not going to, you're not going to get in trouble. Like you're a good rank, or you can choose to go on your own way. And after 10 years, I chose to go on my own way and depart the Marine Corps. And while I wanted to retire, but I knew it was time to move on. It was just the way the world was. And that was a quick synopsis of 10 years, which led me into leaving the Marine Corps feeling lost, broken, unworthy again. And so I rushed into life and found the MBA, found a career, found a wife, found a family. And that also led to a downfall because, again, when you aren't honest with what you're feeling inside, life is so fleeting. And that's exactly what happened to me. I think you're muted, Tom.
There we go. I'm back on again. I didn't want you to hear my shuffling of my papers. Everybody, I want you to know this, that I said that George held it up earlier so you can go back, catch it. I read George's book from cover to cover, and in the Kindle reader, you can highlight stuff. I got like 14 pages of notes. These are memorable things that you said that I thought sometime in my life going forward, I can use them and it's going to teach me. So there's a lot of stuff in George's book, everybody. I want you to get it. But this thing about so many threads in there, I just want to tear it apart a little bit. So you just heard George talking about going into the Marines, but man, I'm thinking like, where do you get the wisdom to say, you know what? I think it's time to make a change. There's so many people in the military I know that go in and they just follow the path and they stay on that path. One of the things you and I talked about was the hero's journey, where we hear this call to go on an adventure, and we don't answer the call, and then sometimes we do, and we go seeking for the true purpose, meaning of what's going on inside us. And I think, to me, I wrote that down in my paper. That's a little call, hey, I'm in the military things, but there's something not right still about what's going on within me. Tell us about the friend you lost, man. I know it's painful, but just put us back into that moment. What happened?
Yeah, it was my childhood best friend. We grew up together.
What was his name?
His name was Adam. He was Lance Corporal Adam Brooks, and we grew up together. We had the dream of going in the Marines together, getting out after 4 years, coming home, being state troopers, and just all the things. And unfortunately, I scored a really high test on the entry to get in, and he scored not so high of a test. So he went infantry, and I went air wing. And at that time, that was just as the height of the war, right? It just started. So 2003, 2004, I was actually on the rifle range getting ready to deploy. And I got a call on the rifle range that he didn't make it. He was blown up in a roadside bomb. And so I never got to say goodbye. I never got to say, we fought, I think the last time we chatted. And that was the last I ever heard from him or even saw him, and it was a sad day.
Yeah. Man, are you okay? Just to keep pushing forward. I'll let you catch your breath. We're going to honor name again was
His
your
name
friend.
was Adam Brooks. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we can make him one of the unsung heroes in your life, dedicating the show to him in part. Uh, but you know, to experience that with a best friend, I understand that. I certainly know I've never been in a situation that like that, but dude, I know every day is a journey for you because it's wired into the thinking patterns in your head, right? There's a part of you. So just even when we get into your coaching stuff, even teaching people how to deal with things like PTSD or loss of life, trauma, pretty amazing. I believe that you're one of the strongest people out there, and they say that like I've experienced in my own life, if those who have experienced deep adversity, which everybody you hear George has from his early years, gives you kind of this mental muscle, this resilience, right, to sort of keep pushing forward and overcome. I want to read something again out of the book, everybody here. George, on page 98, it says, it said a high-paying contract overseas led to traveling the world with my then girlfriend. A 3.7 GPA in grad school landed me interviews with the FBI and some of the world's top consulting firms. A surprise engagement caught on the local news that led to a gorgeous wedding on a beach and a beautiful daughter. A 4 month unpaid internship at one of the top strength and conditioning facilities in the world led to becoming a coach on their staff and eventually venturing out on my own. Now, one more paragraph. Everybody right about now, you're going like, woohoo, he's come back, he's redeemed, this life is good. But paradoxically, while I had everything I wanted, I felt disconnected and empty. There was a hidden voice behind my perceived success, a voice that would crawl up my back on my shoulders to feed off my insecurities, words that forced a brutal war between my internal and external world. Every day I would tell myself, you'll never be good enough. You're a failure. You're not worthy. It's all your fault. So you have, I got to say this. I saw you as a self-worth chaser. I discovered that term through myself. It's like where we're achieving success and all these things we heard about, but what we really do is seeking something that's missing. So take it from that point, George. You had, like some would say, wow, life was going pretty good,
Yeah.
but you couldn't feel it. And so what happened? What'd you do next to get past that point?
I didn't get past that point for a while.
Yeah.
I didn't know how
What's a
to.
while? What's a while?
It was a few years. I didn't know how to express what I was feeling because,
Yeah.
again, growing up, anytime I tried to, I felt unseen or
Yeah.
unheard. And if you join the military, your voice also doesn't matter. So therefore, that fed on top of that, right?
Yeah.
In retrospect, it all made me who I am today, which is amazing. But again, so because I never knew how to express what I was feeling or what I wanted or what was going on inside, this created a gap between me and my now ex-wife. Because, she would be living her life and we would talk and stuff like that. And while she was living her life, she was able to take days off, hang out with her friends, do therapy, and do all the things. Yet I was working mindlessly like a drone from 4 a.m. to 8 at night every single day, then coming home, taking care of a kid. And while on the outside it looked great, on the inside I had a full plate, empty soul. I was essentially a headless human, which I talk about in the book, meaning I was just running around, cut off from anything in the world except just doing it. So proverbial box of life, great, inside horrible, which led to my then wife being with another man. And really, basically the story that I had created, that life was great and all my life was going to be perfect, I was never going to end up like my parents. I ended up ending up like them without even knowing. We ended up in a divorce, which threw me down a really, really dark road, which is what Robert Bly calls the catabasis, point in a man's life where it's a huge fall of status, like an instant fall of status without even knowing. And that led me through years and decades of repressed hurt and emotions. And because it was so heavy, because I didn't know how to deal with it, I almost came to a point where I wanted to take my life. And I almost did take my life. And that was where I somehow found some courage to pull myself back up.
Yeah, amazing, man. Thanks for sharing that, dude. I gotta just read one more paragraph out of the book that you triggered here. So everybody, I'm just gonna put us on a little different view on the screen. If you're watching this, if you're listening to the podcast, you just got to watch the video version of this to watch an amazing author whose life is being unfolded and reading his book and seeing his expression, just priceless. On July 26, 2019, a month after I put a gun to my own head, I recorded a voice memo to myself. I was in the middle of nowhere, sitting in my car, screaming as loud as I could. My throat ached and my lungs ached for air, but I kept screaming. My mission, however crazy it may seem now, was to yell until I was free. I needed to be free from the heavy chains of my past, and nothing else was working. I'd lost everything. I still couldn't find my path to freedom. So I figured, why the fuck not? Action is better than nothing. For precisely 6 minutes and 55 seconds, the toxic emotions I had deep beneath my heart and soul poured out until I had nothing left to shout. I took a deep breath and aligned the parts that left felt lost, neglected, and forgotten. As I wiped the snot and tears from my face, I found the courage to look at my reflection in the rearview mirror, and a timid boy appeared in the fogginess of my mirror. I was lightheaded, dizzy, and unsure what to do, so I kept yelling. I screamed at myself and asked what the reflection wanted from me. After moments of silence that seemed like an eternity, the boy spoke to me and said, "You left me trapped behind the shadows of our past, and I carried your chain for years, unable to set myself free. Today, you have set me free." Oh man, I'm choking up just reading that. I'm not sure about you. Dude, just tell us about that moment in the car. Holy cow.
Yeah. So about a month after I got help and therapists and really kind of considered where I was at in my life, and finally saw I couldn't do this alone anymore, and that none of it, some of it was my fault, but not all of it was my fault. I was told to, write about my feelings, and I was so afraid to write that I didn't know how to. So rather than write, I did voice memos to start, and
That's cool.
that was the first one I ever did. It was they called it like a conscious rant. Essentially, all you're going to do is yell at the top of your lungs with no judgment of whatever you want to say. And I just said everything, and it was like so much anger at first. My body was on fire, and then it was flooded with tears, and it felt like I was connecting with the scared pieces and parts of me I left many moons ago. And I basically loved that little boy who felt lost so many years ago, and told him it wasn't his fault, and all the things that I needed to hear at 6 years old that no one had ever told me. And that's where that came from, in a nice poetic way.
Yeah. Well, we're going to turn the corner now in the interview and start getting into the the shitstorm it's not over, but he's through that, well of despair, and now what's he going to do with all this, and how's he going to help other people with it? You said that about the loving the boy. I don't know if you ever saw the movie. I'm a big movie buff, man. I watch everything and escape through it. But Elton John's Rocket Man movie,
Oh, it's great.
dude, isn't that on a roller coaster? I had tears, and then and remember that scene at the end where he walked in the room and he met himself.
Yeah.
Just unbelievable. And that when you said that, man, my brain just went there and went, give him a hug, because that's the little boy. That's my little boy, dude. People were telling me you got to kill that little boy before you can move forward. It's like, no, I can kill the story, but I got to love that little boy, because that's really me, right? You taught us,
sure.
you taught us a lot there. This thing about writing, I just wanted you to talk about that, because there's a lot of being said about write. So everybody, George is he writes prose, is writing, but you're a poet. And throughout the book, I highlighted probably 7 or 8 of your little poems. These are simple poems that really were something. And then you said here in your book, page 117, sometimes you need to sit silently in the early hours of the morning with a cup of coffee and the blank pages of a notebook. You must just find your heart as you enjoy the comfort of yourself for the first time. Give us a little bit or some coaching on this whole power of the journal.
Yeah, so I know that journaling is not for everyone, and that's fine, right? It is what it is. But for me, it's become a way to really close loops, to write what must not be forgotten, right? And it's been around for centuries. Stoicism and all the greats do it, and there's so many different ways you can journal. For me, I have a few different types of journals. I'm not saying everybody needs to do this, but this is what I do. I wake up in the morning, I hydrate, I do some breath work or meditation, 5 to 10 minutes, nothing crazy. It gets me into like a flow state. It gets me out of my head and into my body. And I sit down and journal whatever I want that's on my mind. Like, I'm feeling angry. I had a joyful day with my daughter. I feel stuck, whatever. And I give the emotions space to come through, because what I've recently poetically put is that, right, I'm just an earth suit passing by on this train of life, and this body is not mine, my emotions are messengers sent to guide me from darkness to light. So emotions are messengers in our life. And if we don't give them space to come through without judgment, they're going to broil up and lead to some type of explosion or some type of fits out of reaction, whatever you want to call it. So that's what I do in the morning. I just write it all down. And it so happened to be, I somehow figured out, probably due to my years of training and things like that, to take my journal and put it into the book and put it into words that other people could understand. And so that's what journaling does for me. It really allows me to connect my head to my heart and just process things that are going on in my life, because for many years I never did it.
That's pretty cool. I think one of the things you said about record a voice memo, just everybody just listen. George, he just taught us something there, a teaching moment on the show. Go back and listen to that. Just do something. Just get your thoughts out. George, you taught us something else there. You said that part about screaming as loud as you can, and that, and I'm not trying to tell you because you know all this because we talked about it on your show, but I learned, and it was only until I learned this, George, that we have this unconscious mind, which is what you've been telling us about, which rules everything. But it responds to emotion in the way we speak and vibration. And so to tap into that, so, writing poetry with emotion, even so everybody, if you ever write a poem, take George's book, read one out loud with emotion. The impact is going to be something very cool in terms of how your unconscious mind starts opening up to learn more. George, I want to, before we go into a couple of things about your business, I want to read one thing here from page 191 in the book. Everybody, hold it up again there, George. Your arm's going to get tired, but you got muscles. There it is, Nowhere to Go. The author, George Kalantzis, is with us today. Great book. Get it, give it, and read it, and put a review out on Amazon, everyone. George, you know what? I'm going to pause, and we're going to have some fun here. So I just, the proof's in the pudding. I did read your book. Obviously, everybody knows by now because I'm talking about it so much. And I wrote you a Canadian review. So today we're going to celebrate. We're going to put that up on the screen right now. So here it is, everybody. An international review for George's book. We're just going to put it on the screen, look at it for a minute, let our hands get all sweaty and emotional. There it is, George. Yeah. So I called the review storytelling that's uncomfortable, revealing, redeeming, and freeing. I'm not going to read it. It's on the screen here, everybody, or you can check it out on Amazon. I've put it there, but I gave him a 5-star, the best of the best. And just amazing stuff, George. And we might as well just,
I didn't even know you can go to Canada and leave a review. I didn't know the difference between the UK, Canada. Now you just,
well,
I'm a new author, so this is all new to me.
There's proof, buddy. So that's a screenshot of Amazon. It says verified purchase, which everybody, when you do a review, if you get the book, Amazon appreciates it more and it's more credible. And the last thing we're going to do here, George, is we're gonna have some fun, man. Hopefully I'm not triggering any war scenes in your head, but
no, you're good.
Congratulations, man. There's a little bit of fireworks, everybody, we had up on the screen. I'm just going to take this vision of the review off the screen. Like sing in this moment, man. It's amazing. And I've read it. The other reviews people wrote were just as good. So
you can attest to that. I think there's something interesting about writing a book. Not everybody's meant to do it, but writing a book, I didn't know what they meant when it says that it changes you.
Yeah.
Like I kind of knew it, but now I really know it. Like you're in this, talk about a hero's journey, right? So while you're writing the book, you're just like trying to get it through it as much as possible. You got so many different phases and valleys, and you submit your first manuscript and you feel like you're on top of the world. Then you get your first edits back and you're like down into the dark of the depths. And you're like, wow, that's horrible. And then you're up, down, up, down. And then when it goes out, you feel so good. And then people start interacting it. And because it's only brand new, it's like not even 6 months yet, 4 months old. I'm still figuring out the next part of my hero's journey as like how to accept the author and where to take it and where I want to. So it's a very interesting concept. Anyways, writing a book does change your life in many different ways, in your psyche and your social world and your personal world. It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, George, you're and everybody will know what I mean by this if they've followed you, the thought leader, teaching through your stories and thoughts. And the one thing I like about the book that you've done is it's omnipresent, right? Wherever, it's everywhere in the world, wherever people want to get it. So you duplicate it yourself. And I mean, think about that, George, the power of you, one guy. And there's a guy in Canada here who last night couldn't sleep because he was so excited about your book. That's me. That's the impact you are having because you wrote that book. I wouldn't have met you if it wasn't for that in the work you're doing. Last thing here, page 199 on the book. I just wrote in the margin last words. This is the end of the book. I could never see it because the cards of life played with my mind. A broken heart offers a superpower beyond something greater than I can see. Freedom is here in these words I speak. I think this was a poem, so I'm going to just flip the page.
Yeah, it's a poem.
This is my last hand. My words create cards that only new stories command. Still fighting, still writing. I let the tears fall. Each verse reminds me tears are the greatest gift of being alive through it all. That's, man, you got a great way with words. So take us now into, I went to your website. There's a whole bunch of things that you're doing with this story, coaching, teaching. Tell us what you're doing and how people can get a hold of you.
Yeah, so the Art of Tough Transitions is now a space where I empower others to move through tough times in their life through movement and words, right? So if you can't connect me through your words, then I'll help you connect your head to your heart through movement. If you connect better with words, then we'll help you also connect your head and heart through movement, right? So it's a combination of both. Essentially, it seems like I attract people in through my words, and then we get them to move, and then they're in touch with their body, and then they create space. So I want people to really unlock their deepest truths by accepting their entire story, not by trying to rip bits and pieces of it out. And that's where the Art of Tough Transition was born, from my own story and just writing and sharing my story, where people are like, hey, you got something here. And I'm like, okay, cool, let's do it. And so 2 years ago when COVID hit, I quit the gym and started doing mock trials, group coaches, lessons like that. And that gave me the fire to fuel the rest of my book and things like that. So today I do it through different ways. The book, obviously, I do it through poems and articles. And then I do it through my own coaching, which is fitness-based coaching, breath work, or personal coaching.
Yeah, it's great. The website's really good. There's some cool pictures on there of you, certainly your tats and a little bit of your physique. Guys in pretty great shape. Also, the thing I wanted to just ask you about, George, was like you talk about therapy and things, but at this point going forward today, you and I both know that those demons stay in our brains, and every day is a battle. There's one gift that I want you to tell us about, and that's your daughter. Through the story, there's a beautiful moment, and that's you have a daughter. So what has that done for your life?
It has allowed me to love myself more and also to experience life again. It's like another chance to live, right?
What's her name?
Her name is Melina. Yeah.
And she's kindergarten?
She's going to be 6 like next week. So we started her birthday week. She's so excited this week. Last week I went skiing with her 4 times. I took her out of school early. Like, it's been a blast,
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
You brought me flashback to my daughter when she was that age. She's 24 now, so it's like, well, she's gone to university, so enjoy that moment. And I know you got to go pick her up, so because you're doing daddy duty too. You're a dad, so that's pretty amazing. George, this is a part of the show I love it all, but I love this part because you're going to get an award. So I don't know if I told you this, but I'm going to full screen me for a minute. Those listening, you won't see this, but I'll talk about it. So behind me on the screen there, George, is an image of what's called a challenge coin. And the challenge coins originated in World War II. Basically, soldiers would carry them in their pockets to commit community. Today, they're used around the world. First responders, FBI has their own, the Alcoholics Anonymous societies. And so I created this one as an award for the show. The front is the art of the show, which is actually the narrative of Quiet Warrior, Hero's Journey. The back is the Hero's Journey crest. It's illustrated, hand painted and handcrafted, these things. There's only less than 50 a year that go out across the world. And I think we have Quiet Warriors now in about 17 countries. By receiving it, you commit to keeping that purpose, taking action every day, and continue to live the life you desire, but changing others. So welcome to the Quiet Warrior tribe, man.
All right. Yeah, there you go. I love challenge coins. I have about 75 of them probably.
No way. Well, see, there's something I didn't know. So now you have like 76.
Yeah. So for every embassy I ever stepped foot in, or every unit I ever served in, or any country I ever visited that had a Marine in there, we traded. So I got a hefty collection from my time overseas.
That is cool. You just made my day because that means a lot. I got 4 words to honor you with. I write these down. People can't see it obviously, but as you're talking, they're not scripted. Number 1 is these are leadership words. 1 is hero, man. You're a hero. Heroes in my mind is somebody who does something different with their story, like learns and comes back as a guide or a shaman. Courage, geez, for everything you've done, including your service and what you went through. Integrity, I think to write a book and come out and tell your story, but fall on your sword for your weaknesses and be totally brutally honest. Awesome. And then love. You're a guy who I know struggles with the armor, but there's something about you and everything you do. There's something that says this guy loves people, and I can see now why people are drawn to you, including your daughter. So let's wrap it up. Last word to you.
Oh, yeah. Last word for me. I guess if there's anyone out there who feels lost or broken in life or struggling, remember it's a choice to struggle. And, in the moment of struggle, you can always give yourself permission to get out of your head and into your heart by closing your eyes and just taking a few deep breaths. Because the center point of all life happens the moment we breathe. And you always have a choice to breathe until you don't.
Wow. What a great way to end off. It's your choice, everybody. It's your choice to breathe. Hey, thanks very much, George, for being here today. Everybody, find that true purpose like you see George has. Take action, live the life that you deserve and desire. And George, we'll be talking to you again, I'm sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for listening to The Quiet Warrior Show. Create is a motive-based leadership development firm. www.kreat.ca